Welcome back to the Reese Report. I'm the mouth of the North, Andrew Reese, and we are back for part three of our top 20 players of all time. I'm joined by Jose Carlos Gomes and Tony Barbosa, and we are on the top three. That's right, the top three of our list of the top 20 NHL players of all time. So, without further ado, let's start part three. And because Josie was kind of laughing, I'm going to start with him for number three.
Laughing. I'm not laughing. I'm enjoying this. Okay, so number three, I have the second all-time goal scoring in the league. I have Yarmer Yager. I think the man was a great player, even when Lemieux was there. Without Lemieux, he still put up good numbers. He lost some playoff series to a tough Philadelphia teams. But the man, wherever he went, he produced. And I salute you, my brother. And yeah, even still to this day, he's still playing in Czech Republic for the team that he owns. I think he believe he's 50 years old now, and the man's
Yeah.
still putting up points there. Like, come on, you can't deny this guy is one of the greatest players of all time. So I have him at number three.
Could you have grown a mullet like him, Jose?
No, never. I don't even have any hair, bro. I have no hair.
All right. Tony Barbosa, who do you have at number three? I'm interested.
I have Sidney Crosby on number three.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, you mentioned a lot of his accolades. The one thing is, you touched on it, is he makes his line mates way better than they are. Like you said, he made Kunitz a
Olympic
Team
player.
Canada, and
Yeah.
an Olympic player. Um, and he thought that by leaving Sidney Crosby, he was still going to be the same player. He was never the same player when he left Sidney Crosby, not even close. Um, Cups, he was captain from the Penguins since he was 18. Um, always Penguins always had great teams when he was on when he was the captain. So and the three cups, he was a big factor in all three cups. So that's why Sidney Crosby is my top three player of all time.
All right. So at number three, I have Mark Messier. Mark Messier, I watched from a very young age. I think he was Ovechkin before Ovechkin was around. Mark Messier, before he became what he became, was a massive physical player, like to the point where players thought he was dirty because he was so physical. Players were scared to play against him. He was a major factor when he came into the league for Gretzky because he helped Gretzky protect him, also with leadership abilities. And then he became one of the better playoff players you'll ever see. Taking over games when Gretzky couldn't. Um, Third round pick, 48th overall in 1979. Again, 79-80, just the year of the Oilers. Um, Barbosa touched on this, a lethal wrist shot. Just a seeing eye wrist shot that when he came off the wing and shot it was going in the net. He did that for the Rangers when he guaranteed that he'd win Game 7 against the Devils and
He put up a
Martin
hat trick.
Brodeur, who we mentioned, down 2-1, puts up a hat trick. They go on to win the series on a Stefan Moteau goal. Um, Very physical player. 6 Stanley Cups, five with the Oilers, one with the Rangers. Um, he was an incredible leader. The two hearts for each team when he was the captain will attest to that. Third all time in scoring, which most people probably don't know, and second all time in playoff scoring. That's why I put him at number three, over players that you might think would be ranked ahead of him. And his incredible leadership ability is unmatched. And so he did it all. He played both ends. He was physical. He could score, lead. He did it all. And that's why I think he deserves to be number three ahead of someone like a Yager or even a Crosby, who is a great leader in himself. Crosby in future, when his career is over, may end up passing Mark. But right now, I'm going to have Mark there because he's got 6 Stanley Cups and captained 2 different teams to cup championships. So I'll put Messi at 3 for my list. Now we get to the top 2, and I am just so curious how this is going to end up. I'm going to start with Barbosa. Who do you have at number 2?
Mario Lemieux is number 2. Obviously, amazing talent. Your first goal in the NHL is your first shot, your first shift. And then from there, it was just unbelievable. No, I don't think anybody knew how to stop Mario Lemieux. I probably had the best goal I've ever seen in my life in the playoffs, in the Stanley Cup Finals, at my ad, from end to end. The whole Minnesota North Stars team, and obviously 2 cups. I had to retire because of some health issues, and then he came back. It's like he never lost a step when he came back after 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
He was off for 3 years. Yeah,
3 years.
He retired 2 separate times.
Yeah, and he came back, and it's like he never left. The man was just unbelievable talent. Obviously, his career got cut short because of injuries, or else I believe he would have some of Gretzky's records, 100%. So that's why he's only number 2.
He certainly have the goal record, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That record he would have had for sure. Jose, who do you have at number 2?
I didn't see much of him playing in the 80s. So from what I saw, I have Wayne Gretzky at 2. I know Gretzky has all the accolade, all the record stats and all this bullshit, but that was in the 80s. So I didn't get to see much hockey in the 80s. Like I said, I came to Canada in the 1990s, and then I started watching hockey from then. And to me, my number 1 was always, like, I think skillfully as good as Wayne Gretzky, or even probably better. And if it wasn't for injuries, but we'll get to that for after. But the Gretzky, what can you say? He's the greatest probably of all time in stats wise and stuff like that. But I just think that after he left Edmonton, he put up points and goals, but he didn't do anything. He went to St. Louis. They had a stacked team. They didn't win nothing. He went to the Rangers and stuff like that. So I just think Gretzky, I have him at number 2, but I can put him as easily at number 1. I know probably you guys are all going to pick Gretzky at number 1, but it is what it is. I have him at 2. But
so just for the record, you didn't get to watch any of his Edmonton years.
Dude, I watched I wasn't in the 1990 when I got here. They just finished winning the cup,
right?
And then he got traded. Then he got traded to
LA.
Yeah, right. So
okay.
It's not.
So you only saw LA Gretzky. You only saw LA Gretzky.
LA Gretzky, yeah.
That's
all I saw.
Okay.
I didn't see him in I see the highlights, of course. So you know that the man put up crazy points, right? So,
and that's fair. If you're someone who only saw hockey from the 90s on, you would probably think that Gretzky's number 2, and I'm sure the guy that Josie's going to mention is number 1. So that's fair. For me, it's Mario Lemieux at number 2. Barbosa and I syncing up again. Mario Lemieux is a guy that he's 6'6", but played like a guy who was 5'10". And what I mean by that is he had some amazing hands, and he played with such finesse. It felt like when he had the puck on his stick, it was a pillow, and he could just flick it wherever he wanted to flick it. And he had such a long reach that if he got at full tilt speed, you could not stop him. And Barbosa mentioned that goal. He was at full tilt, and he just hit the long reach, enabled him to make these moves where he went around defensemen and made them look stupid. Another guy I never saw miss a breakaway. He scored almost every breakaway I ever watched. He was able to score in a bunch of different ways. Great shot, ability to deke out everybody. Could set up people nicely as well. Shorthanded goals, power play goals. He did it all. He was drafted first overall in 1984 after the Penguins purposely tanked to get him. absolutely purposely tanked. They were sending guys down who were scoring goals. That's how bad they wanted him. 2 cups, 2 Conn Smites, 3 Hearts, 6 Art Ross trophies. He scored 85 goals in a season and 199 points, which is his career high. And 8th all-time in points and 19th in playoff points. But if he had played his entire career, he would have been second in scoring for sure, and he would have had the goal record. He had major back issues. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer that kept him out for a season. He had an irregular heartbeat that ended his career. He retired for 3 seasons because his body was beat up. Who knows how good he could have been, but injuries really derailed him. But just a remarkable player who saved the Penguins not once but twice. So he did everything for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So much love to Mr. Mario, and no insult for you being number 2, my friend, because if I could do one A1, I would do it. But this is a list, and you have to make an honest list. So I haven't but number 2, and I've given the reasons why. And now we will go to number 1, and I'm gonna go to Jose first because he had a long explanation about why he decided with 2 and 1. So explain number 1 and who you got, Jose.
I got Mario Lemieux at number 1. When I first started watching hockey, I started watching this guy play, and like the goals this guy would score, the plays he would make, dude. The trophies, the Stanley Cups, all that stuff speak for himself. Like you guys said, if it wasn't for the injuries, we would beat some of Wayne Gretzky's records, I think. And to me, I just think when it comes down to it, I think he was a better player than Gretzky. I think he was more talented than Gretzky. I just think Gretzky had better teams when he in Edmonton. I think he had better players around him. Besides Yager, like who else did on the Pittsburgh Penguins team did he have? The Scott Stevens, like he's nothing compared to a Mark Messier, Yari Curry, and I can go with Glenn Andersons and stuff like that. Keep going on and on. And then when he left Edmonton, when did Gretzky win? He didn't win anything. So I just think, in my opinion, Mario Lemieux is the greatest in my opinion. And if it wasn't for injuries, he would have had better stats, more goals than Wayne Gretzky. And I think he probably would have won a couple more championships. And like Reese said, he did freaking save Pittsburgh a couple of times when they were bankrupt. He came back to play for them. I remember against the Leafs, that was his first game back. He scored 2 goals, or he had a goal and 2 assists or something like that. Like, come on, that guy, he was unreal. The goal he scored against Boston, he dekes out Ray Bork. He made him look stupid against the Minnesota North Stars in the Stanley Cup Finals when he dekes out the whole team, so it goes end to end. I feel sorry for John Casey or whatever his name is, like was in that. So that's just my opinion. I like Mario Lemieux. I've always liked Mario Lemieux more than Wayne Gretzky, so I take Mario Lemieux at number 1.
And in fairness to Jose, he didn't see Gretzky in the Edmonton years, which is Gretzky's absolute prime and when he was at his absolute best. And so that's fair. I won't rail against any player. Lemieux's teams were loaded. They were just as good as the Edmonton teams, if not better. So I don't. I'm against the whole he didn't have as good a team as Gretzky. If you watch those Pittsburgh teams, they were absolutely loaded. So I mean, they ended up with Paul Coffey, who went to Pittsburgh after he left Edmonton. They had Ron Francis, they had Yager, they had Thomas Sandstrom, Ryan Trottier. They were Larry Murphy in his prime was on that team. They were loaded in Pittsburgh. Peter Nedved, Martin Straka, they were loaded.
Compare player to player.
Are you kidding me?
Edmonton and Pittsburgh, and who had a better squad?
Gretzky only had one other player with 100 points.
Mm-hmm.
One on his Edmonton teams. Lemieux had 2 other players with 100 points. Yager and Francis.
And he actually had 3 picks. Kevin Stevens also had 100 points.
Oh, yo, So that's 4 players with 100 points. Gretzky was only him and Messier.
And Paul Coffey. Yeah. So yes,
So
Pittsburgh
let's
was
not
loaded,
say,
but it's not even about they were low. My point was Pittsburgh had loaded teams. It wasn't
yeah.
about the teams. That's all I was trying to
But
say.
don't get me
And
wrong, Lemieux is
yeah,
Lemieux.
but like I
Okay,
said, I
I'm
don't
not
want to
gonna say.
denigrate because Jose watching from the 90s on, and if you anyone who watched from the 90s on would think Lemieux was better than Gretzky because Gretzky was already past his prime and playing on the Kings. So that makes sense what he said. So that's okay. Barbosa, who's your number one? Let me guess. Yeah. Yes. Yes, I'll get
Mr.
to that
Number
as you
99,
as you
Mr.
explain.
Gretzky. Jose, that guy is, when he made a play, Jose, you already knew, you already thought of that play before he even made it. That guy was 2 steps ahead of everybody. That's what made Gretzky great. It's because he knew where to go, and you knew where you wanted to put the puck. 4 straight Stanley Cups, him as the captain. Nobody behind the net is better than Wayne Gretzky. Amazing, the best playmaker I've ever seen in my life. When you score 96 goals in a season, Jesus Christ, 200 points. The man was the best. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest. There's nobody better than him.
Okay, Barbosa, thanks for leaving it to me
say.
because Wayne Gretzky was my favorite player growing up, but I'm not going to go by favoritism here. I'm going to go by explanation. Wayne Gretzky's the greatest player I've ever seen. He is the GOAT, and I'm going to explain why. When Gretzky and Lemieux were both in their prime, Gretzky had the advantage in every single category. So even when Lemieux was 100% healthy and he was in his prime, he never came close to Gretzky's records. Gretzky averaged 200 points in his career in Edmonton. Let me repeat that. When he played in Edmonton from 1979 to 1989, he averaged 200 points a season. 200. He had a 51 game point streak. Lemieux, for his credit, got to 45, but didn't break it. Gretzky scored 50 goals in 39 games, a record that will never be broken ever. I will be long in under the sand if that ever happens. Scored 92 goals in a season, another record that will never be broken. 215 points, another record that will not be broken. He had 61 NHL records, including records that no one remembers, like the most shorthanded goals in history. The people don't realize Gretzky killed penalties and scored shorthanded goals all the time. Also had the best plus minus for a forward ever in history. So for those who don't know, Gretzky was a great defensive player as well. 9 straight Hart trophies, 10 straight Art Rosses before, to his credit, Lemieux broke that streak. 2 Conn Smythes. And I'm going to get to his LA history. When Gretzky went to the Kings, he scored 930 points in 500 games. That's not bad. That's not bad for a guy who was almost done. He played on a Kings team that had nobody. They had Luc Robitaille, and that was it. Bernie Nichols, they had Kelly Rudy in net. The Kings team that made the Cup final is the worst team I've ever seen make the Cup final. The Leafs, who played them in the conference final, were the better team. 100% they were the better team. And Gretzky single-handedly beat them in Game 7. It's the greatest performance I've ever seen from a player in a Game 7 in my life. So when people say that Gretzky was done in LA, not only did he beat the Leafs that year, but his first year in LA, when he left Edmonton, they knocked out the Oilers. They made the playoffs as the 8th seed. They knocked out the Oilers. Gretzky came back from a 3-1 deficit against the Oilers in round 1 and knocked out the Oilers the first year he went to LA with a garbage team. Now, to the Oilers' credit, they swept them the following year and won the Cup. But people forget that Gretzky knocked that team out when he left the first year and went to LA. His St. Louis years, Yzerman knocked him out in Game 7. To credit, Grant Fuhr, who was their goalie that year, was knocked out by the Leafs in round 1, which changed their entire outlook on them. They probably had a real chance to win the Cup that year. And when he got to the Rangers, he had one of the greatest playoff performances ever when he had 10 goals and 10 assists and 20 points before being knocked out by Eric Lindros and the Flyers. And he got old. I don't blame the guy. But this notion that Gretzky wasn't great after Edmonton is wrong. Watch, he was great. He just was a little bit older. He also he's the only player ever to win a scoring title with only assist. He also has the most points in the NHL with just assists. Doesn't even need to score, and he's the highest scoring player.
He doesn't need goals, and just assists.
And then outside of his play, just a great man on and off the ice. One of the nicest men you'll ever meet. I remember meeting him when I was 9 years old. Stopped while he was holding an Art Ross trophy to take a picture with me. A moment I will never forget. And will sign anything. A great ambassador to the game. Horrible coach, but he tried it. Led Canada as the manager to their first gold medal in 50 years. And also was a major part of Mario Lemieux maturing as a player. When for people who don't remember, in 1987, Canada won their first Canada Cup in a long, long time. Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux played together. Mario Lemieux was not the player he was yet. And when he played with Wayne Gretzky in that Canada Cup, it changed his career. And he said that openly. Playing with Gretzky changed my career. It made me a championship player. And so for all those reasons, Gretzky's the GOAT and number one. I can't get into all of his records, but he did it all. And I don't think him not winning at Edmonton is a mark on his record at all. But they probably would have won 7 or 8 cups if they hadn't split up that team. It wasn't his fault he was traded. Peter Pocklington had issues with the ownership of the team, and that's why he was moved. And then after that, the rest of the players moved out as well. After Paul Coffey was the first guy to leave and go to Pittsburgh and help them win a cup. So I got Gretzky at 1. It's really, really hard to debate. For those who wanted to argue that he played in the 80s, there were a whole bunch of really good Hall of Fame players we've discussed today that played in the 80s that didn't come close to getting 200 points in 4 seasons. That's right. 4 seasons he had 200 points, not just 1. So I got Gretzky as the GOAT. I don't think there's going to be anyone that comes close. McDavid, I think McDavid can get the second in points. I think that's possible. But he won't catch Gretzky. Gretzky has 2,857 points. Do you guys hear that? 2,857. I just don't see that happening even for McDavid.
And how many goals? How many goals does he have, Reese?
894.
So he has.
Yeah. So Ovechkin might catch him.
1,700 assists. 1,700 assists. 1,700 something assists.
Yeah. So the goal record might get broken, the points record won't, and the assist record certainly won't. And that's obviously because of the kind of hockey they play today. But I mean, the Edmonton power play this year was the best power play in the history of the NHL. So I mean, McDavid's going to try, but he won't get to 2,800. But that's my number 1, and that's our list, guys. This was a lot of fun to do. It was great hearing some of these lists, some surprise players. I'd really like it if you guys gave us what you think your list is, or if you have any debates on what our list is. Please leave your comments. Let me know what you think. I'm going to post this show in the 3 parts on Twitter and on Facebook and all of our pages. We'll try to separate them through the Stanley Cup playoffs so we don't have them all at once to surprise you guys a little bit. I know my dad's going to have a lot to say about this list. So I'll let him say what he wants to say first. Anthony, you were called out on here. I expect to hear from you. Jeffrey, let me know where you think Yzerman should be. Your favorite player of all time. Do you agree with Jose? I mean, I certainly agree with Jose because he started watching in the 90s. If you started watching in the 90s, Lemieux was the best player, 100%. So do you think Lemieux was the best anyway? Did you watch hockey when I watched hockey and still thought Lemieux was better than Gretzky? Let us know. Let us know if you have someone higher that we didn't have. Would really appreciate it. Please, as always, give us a subscribe, a like, comment. We're going to bring you some more shows. For those who don't know, we're going to be reviewing Collision on here, the new AEW show as CM Punk makes his return. That'll be the 3 of us. And we're going to try to do some fun shows like this as we go forward, maybe come up with some different categories. We had a lot of fun and great feedback after Barbosa called Kovalev the greatest skilled player of all time. And so if we have another debate like that, we'll definitely have it on the show. So, as Jose's already shaking his head. So, But
Hey,
I
buddy,
will
I
say
have
this.
hot takes, eh? I'm not only Skip
Yeah,
Bayless,
that's right.
buddy.
I will say this. Anthony Malfera, if you're listening, when I went to your house the other day and he said the same thing you did, Barbosa. He called Kovalev the most skilled player you've ever seen. So you have a friend in Malfera that's on your side there, bud.
That's another one that says doesn't know anything about hockey. Please don't even start. Don't even start.
Yeah, this is a guy who called Matthews better than McDavid, and
Yeah.
McDavid doubled him points.
Yeah. Talk to me when Matthews reaches 100 points in the season.
Yeah. So
Pretty
yes,
sad when Marner gets more points than he does.
Yes, we need to have Anthony on this show somehow because he's a hot topic point on this show. But that's our show for today. As you can see, Barbosa's yawning. It's late. It's like 2 a.m, guys. We had to do this show late because Barbosa had to go get wings after he played soccer. And these guys want to play golf in the morning. So let's let him go to sleep. I'm the mouth of the North Andrew Reese. That's Tony Barbosa. And that's Jose Chicken Wings Gomes. We'll see you on the next Reese Report. That's a great jersey there, Barbosa. Just great. Oh, and by the way, that's the GOAT. That's the GOAT.
Are you talking about that guy right there?
Flip it upside down, buddy. Flip it upside down.
See you next time, guys.